Welcome back, fish heads, to Fresh Friday 2024.
We're on the 5 o'clock stream.
Yeah.
We made it.
Yes.
So we have 2 more to go. You've stuck with us this far. This one's going to be really, really good.
Yes, yes. I've been looking forward to this one. We recorded this in like 900-degree weather.
It was officially 900 degrees out, actually.
7,000% humidity. So
you see, us smart Floridians who know how horrible our summer is, was like, we should go to an outdoor plant nursery and record for 5 hours on the hottest day of the year.
Yeah,
so,
in Fort Lauderdale.
It was a really good idea, but it was well worth it. These guys are awesome down there with a lot of great information, so we're going to get to that in a few.
Yeah, so again, you guys, huge sales going on in the U.S. and Canada, so take advantage of them. Waterboxaquariums.com or waterboxaquariums.ca. These sales are running from July 19th to the 26th. You're going to save big on not only freshwater, but also saltwater stuff, so take advantage of that.
Yep. On this stream, as we have been doing so far, is we have 4 $500 Waterbox gift cards that we are giving away. To enter into this, you go to the stream time on the website, and there's going to be an enter giveaway button. This is open for the first 30 minutes of the stream, then it closes, and the winners will be announced at the end. We'll also be dropping a bonus word randomly throughout the stream here that will go into grand prize entry, and that is for $1,000. We're announcing that winner on the final stream, which is our next one at 6 o'clock. So your time is ticking down. You have roughly like 58 minutes to get into the grand prize giveaway. So this is the last bonus word that we'll drop that's going to get you the entries. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you've already signed up if you haven't already.
Yep. Also, hammer fist the like button, subscribe to the channel, helps us out tremendously. Let us know what you do to the like button too. I really like seeing that. I've seen some pretty funny ones coming through.
Yeah, we do. People always have funny things to say on it.
Yeah.
You promote their aggressiveness towards the like button. You do.
I wasn't on the stream on Wednesday, and I smashed the like button with a Waterbox magnet. So
those things are so strong too. Our magnets are strong, and they're on sale right now. So
pancake your phone between the magnets.
You'll never get your phone back.
Oh yeah,
The magnet would completely
your
wipe
phone will
it.
be destroyed, but you smashed the like button, so it's all good.
That's all that really matters. All right, so we went down to Fort Lauderdale with Florida Aquatic Nursery, and we went over discussions, kind of like our theme of today of talking is like high tech, low tech, or easy to harder to keep plants, things to consider, best ones. They're out there with so many acres growing all these beautiful plants, so they're definitely the experts to talk to on it.
Yep.
Let's take a look.
What's going on, fish heads? We are here with Brandon from Florida Aquatic Nursery, a family-owned and operated plant nursery providing pond plants and aquarium plants since 1957. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with talking a little bit about the history and mission of Florida Aquatic Nursery.
Sure. We've got an interesting history. My grandfather is actually the one who started this back in 1957. So, you're looking at close to 70 years right now. From there, his goal was to start farm-raised aquarium plants. They were all wild collected. There was, I think, one other nursery in Florida that was doing farm-raised aquarium plants. And after he got his degree from the University of Florida, he saw this need to do farm-raised aquarium plants that would be available year-round. Before that, with the wild collected, they were seasonal. And then he was hoping to maybe even, dabble into alligator farming.
Ooh.
So after he passed away, my father and my uncle took over the business and really worked hard and turned it into what it is today. My father became the sole owner, and then I just recently purchased it from him. So we're looking at 3 generations of McLeans that have been owning this farm and working on it, and maybe one day down the road we'll see 4. Who knows?
Wow.
But our goal is to provide the best quality plants in the United States to the whole United States and North America, for that matter.
Wonderful.
How about how big is
the property and like amount of plants and stuff that you do have?
That's a great question. So we have 17 acres total. Well, this facility here is 10 acres that we're looking at today. The number of variety of plants, we're, I think, close to 500 total different varieties of plants when you include our water garden.
Wow.
We got over 100 different varieties of aquarium plants, and lots of water lilies and lots of marginal plants to go with it.
That is a lot of plants.
It's a lot to remember and a lot to follow and take care of.
Do you know the scientific names of all of them?
Pretty much everyone I could probably recite without having to look
That's
up.
a lot in the brain.
That is a lot in the brain.
I was looking at the website the other day and I was like, I wonder if they know every single one of these. That's pretty impressive.
It's crazy. It takes up a lot of memory space. You know, when I can't remember a kid's names, I just blame it on the plants. Yeah, maybe I should have named them.
Well, this is definitely an impressive place to visit. If we're looking at talking today about easy versus harder to keep plants, what are some of the easiest types of aquarium plants that you have here at the nursery?
So, great question. Easy beginner plants that we have here at the nursery, Anubias is a whole genus, and out of that, I think we got 15 or 20 different types.
Wow.
Just Anubias, bulletproof, great beginner plant. Low light. We've got Sagittaria, which is a nice spreading plant that people can use to fill up some different height ranges in their aquarium. We've got Microsorium, which is Java fern. That's a real common one. Good low light, good starter plant. Got tons of different varieties of good beginner plants, and I almost forgot, but we've got sword plants and probably 20 different varieties of sword plants, which
People
are
love
great.
swords. They're so beautiful, and they're nice. Most of them are nice and big, good filler.
Yeah, great centerpiece, great colors on them that you can really draw the eye to.
Nice.
What makes these plants easier to care for than others?
So a lot of times when you think of easy to care plants, it's how much are you actually messing with the plants in the tank, and lighting. Most beginners or people that are looking for easy to care plants want something that's slow growing, so they're not in there pruning all the time. They want something that doesn't take much care. They don't have to fertilize it a bunch, and being slow growing and taking low light is a great first step for people. It gives them the time to learn about the hobby while seeing plants live and flourish in their aquarium. I mean, Anubias can live in your aquarium for years and years and years. I've got one aquarium at home now with the original plants. They've gotten quite a bit bigger, but they're well over 10 years old.
Easy to get into. Not a lot of work involved at first, as you kind of have a learning curve.
Yeah, there's definitely in anything there's a learning curve.
Yeah.
And want to stay low maintenance and easy, and then as you get a little more into it, if you want the extra challenge, go for it. But if you don't, you can also keep your low easy to maintain. Depends on how much free time you have.
Yeah, that's true. For the easy to care plants, can you provide some basic care requirements that people would be looking at if they've never done plants before, but I want to start with something easy like the ones you mentioned, with some basic care?
Sure. So a good starting point, first of all, you got to get your aquarium. I know we were talking a little bit earlier, but you guys said you had a great beginner setup.
The all-in-one 10 and 15 cube, which basically comes with everything, the light, filtration, everything ready to go.
That's a great starting point. So all you need to do there, once you purchase that, is take it home, and then you've got to add some substrate to it. Make sure that you get a aquatic plant substrate. There's so many different varieties on the market. You really can't go wrong as long as you're buying an aquatic plant substrate. And don't just put one little, thin layer on there. Give yourself a good thing, because what a good, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, maybe even 3 inches worth of substrate, because what that's doing is that's holding the nutrients in there for the plants to grow. The aquatic plant substrates are much better than the traditional gravel. Not that you can't put some gravel on the top for top dressing if you want a fancy color, or if you want a different shape. If you want to just hide the aquatic plant substrate, go ahead and put some gravel on the top, but just do it as a top dressing. And once you've got the substrate, now you can start planting your plants. So go to the store, buy easy plants to begin with, If you want to experiment with a couple that are more colorful or say hard, go for it. But get a good base of easy plants to start with. And then once you get your plants, bring them home. And then all you've got to do is add nutrition. Stay real light on your nutrition to begin with until you kind of find how the plants are adjusting, until they're filling in and you're getting plenty of them in your tank to absorb the nutrition. Your fish are also going to be providing nutrition to these plants too. So once you figure out the balance, then you can figure out how much nutrition you need to add.
So you mentioned some colorful, easier to keep plants. What would some of those be? Because I think a lot of times people think easy, all you're going to get is the same shade of green. Where can you find a little bit of color but still easy without the CO2?
So there's some different colored sword plants. You're going to see some different colors in there. Like Echinodorus ocelot is an easier one to take care of. Doesn't need a whole lot of heavy lighting, although you'll see more color with higher lights, but you still get some color in it. Ludwigia broadleaf is a common name, and it's got a really beautiful red underside to the leaves. So as they start to grow, you'll see that red, especially moving back and forth in the current. If you can put it near the current, those would be a couple of good plants to add some color in the beginning.
Okay. So there's hope to add a little bit of color in the very beginning and not just have green.
For sure. Yeah. Cryptocrines also are another genus. It's, they're relatively easy. Some people say they're a little more demanding, but you got different colors. You got browns and reds and pretty leaves in that genus also.
Nice.
Are there any special planting considerations for some of these easier plants, like when you're actually planting them in the aquarium?
So the big thing to know is how the plant grows at that point. So you're going to have stem plants. I just mentioned Ludwigia is one of them. And the stem plants are going to grow straight up, but you can cut them near the base and then replant the leftover piece. So you can start your own little grove if you think about it. And where you cut will actually branch off and grow some new growth from it. So the stem plants, you're always going to be kind of maintaining, trimming. Like I said, you can expand the grove to what size you want, and then you're going to be trimming and throwing away, or trading with your friends or your kids, giving them some for their tank, wherever that leaves you. Then you're going to have plants like the sword plants that we talked about that are going to be more one plant. They're not going to be spreading as much. Although, if you're lucky enough to have a bloom stalk, you will see babies grow right off of the bloom stalk, and we can look at that later. And then you're going to have plants like Sagittaria that spread by rhizomes. So they're going to spread under the substrate, and then you'll see the original one you planted here in the middle, and then there'll be one that pops up a little bit over here, and then they'll start to fill in that space as they grow over time. So the maintenance depends on how the plant's growing and how finely manicured you want it, or how jungly you want to let it get.
I know you mentioned Anubias, and I know that has some special planting requirements.
Yeah, so Anubias is really neat. It's really versatile. The one thing that you don't want to do to it is bury it under the substrate. You can put it in the substrate, but you'll want to let that rhizome creep along the top of it. So you need it exposed. Doesn't mean that you can't bury the roots, but that tip of the rhizome should be at the surface, exposed where you can see it. Other neat things, if you've got decorative rock that you bought, you can tie it or glue it to that decorative rock. It'll adhere right to there and start growing. Pieces of wood it'll grow right on. I've even seen people put them on suction cups and put them on the side of their fish tanks in areas.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Java fern's the same way.
Java fern's another one just like that, where the same type of settings with a different type of leaf structure, different color, that you could fit in those same areas.
It's very important to know that, like when you're picking out a plant, because if you go and buy some Anubias and Java fern, you're like, I'm just burying them down, then you have no more of it, and you're wondering, what did I do wrong? And it dies off. So always ask about like the planting style or needs of the plant that you're going to get.
Great point. You don't want Brandon telling you it's so easy, and then you're going home killing them, wondering why.
It's not Brandon's fault.
What's your favorite easy to care for plant, and why?
My favorite plant would be Anubias barteri. It's got a big round leaf to it. It's one of the plants that I've had since I was young in my tank, and I just can't seem to kill it. I get to play with a bunch of different varieties of plants here, but when I go home at the end of the day, I want something that's easy and bulletproof. And this one really fits that category. like I was talking earlier, that I had some that are over 10 years old. Well, that's Anubias barteri, and it's been growing and growing. And I trim it back, and I either throw it away. I put some out in my pond because I've gotten, I feel bad throwing stuff away. But I've planted it all around, and they just keep going and going and going. And it's big, showy, and easy to take care of.
That's always big bonuses. For the Anubias, how is that propagated? How does that grow and reproduce?
Great question. So we get a lot of them in from micropropagation, which is tissue culture. So we'll buy the starts in, and then we'll plant them up in our pots. And so when you get a potted plant, most of them are from the micropropagation lab from tissue culture. And then we also, if you're buying bare root plants from us, we do our own production in-house, and we're doing cuttings of Anubias from the rhizome cuttings. And so you get a piece of rhizome with roots and beautiful leaves on it, and those are fresh cuttings from our soil tables.
So like in your aquarium, if you have an Anubias, like if you want to propagate it, you need to cut the rhizome, or will it do it its own eventually?
Well, both. So they'll do both, but if you cut the growing end of the rhizome and leave yourself about 2 or 3 inches as it gets bigger, that will be a whole new plant, right, that growing in you can put wherever you want. And if you've left rhizome behind, a lot of times you'll see sprouts start to come off the sides. So they haven't been there while the plant's growing because of the apical dominance. But as soon as you cut the head off, the apical meristem, then you see those side lateral shoots start to develop. So you'll cut it off, and now you'll have 3 plants growing where 1 plant was before.
That's super cool. I did not know that about Anubias.
Yeah.
Neat.
Awesome. Well, that's a great overview of the easier to keep. Let's jump into some of the more challenging plants. So let's talk about what kinds of harder to keep plants you guys offer.
So challenging plants, when people mention challenging plants, I always think of color, right? So with color comes a little bit more responsibility, but you get a lot of really nice rotalas that are very red and colorful. And in order to keep those maintained well, you've got to have higher light and CO2, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So you've got that. Then also the foreground plants. You know, that everybody loves seeing that matting, carpeting effect in their tank, right? One of the popular plants is dwarf baby tears for that. But in order to get that matting, carpeting effect, you got to remember this plant is all the way at the bottom of your aquarium. So the light intensity's got to be high to keep it there. And like I said, with higher light intensity comes CO2 requirements to help those plants flourish. So those are a couple of the harder to grow. You know, if you think of those foreground areas, if you think of those bright, colorful plants, those all take a little bit more responsibility and are a little bit harder to grow.
Nice. So you kind of touched on it a bit, but like what makes them more difficult to grow?
So more difficult to grow, you know, those colors need more light intensity. So you got to have a higher light. When you have a higher light, until you get it figured out and streamlined a little bit, you end up with algae issues. Once you have the higher light, for the plants to start growing, they want to grow fast. And since you're in a small little aquarium, adding CO2 helps those plants get the necessary, to metabolize at that fast rate of speed. So CO2, and with CO2, you got to be careful because you can overgas your fish and have an issue there. So I like to say start slow with your lighting intensity too. You know, you can buy that higher intense light, but you might want to run it for less hours to begin with. And the CO2, you know, if you think you need this higher rate, well, do half of that to start, and watch and see how the plants behave, how the growth happens, and go from there.
So definitely a lot more touch and go with those to see where the balance is, keeping them happy, less algae, keeping color. There's a lot more balancing act involved.
There is more balancing, but you know, people like challenges.
Yes.
People like color, and then you got to add more nutrients too, and that finding that nutrient balance on how fast the plants are growing and how much nutrition to give them. They're going to need more when they're growing fast. But if you overfeed them, you're going to run into algae issues too.
No one wants algae.
No one wants algae.
So, Brandon, what are some of the common struggles that hobbyists face when trying to keep these harder plants? Like, what does that look like?
So the big struggles are really figuring out what the requirements, what the parameters are. Do I have enough light to begin with? There's different settings, and with the LED lights, don't refer back to the old settings of watts per gallon. You need to start looking at the new settings. And there's the PAR measures that are really effective. And if you just Google that, that'll help you get what that means and understand that. But it's measuring the light level at the substrate area. So that really helps you, especially when you're trying to grow those foreground mats, to know if you have enough lighting in there to begin with. If you don't, then you're going to have to upgrade your light. We talked about adding CO2, right? So then you got to purchase a CO2 system to go with your tank. And then the regulator is very important on the CO2 systems. Make sure you have a good regulator that's actually putting out what you're telling it to do. And then nutrition, trying to find, now that our plants are growing faster, we've got better light, we've added CO2, they can grow fast, they are growing fast. Now we got to figure out how much nutrition to add. And so don't be stressed out when you're trying to figure this out. Remember, this is supposed to be fun. Yeah. This is our hobby, We're trying to figure out how to add some color to our tanks. So start very small. You can even start in a low to medium light tank by just adding colorful plants in there to see how they perform. If you like that and you want to go, then making sure that you have the proper light intensity or buying a new light, making sure that you buy a CO2 system, those would be the next steps. But it doesn't hurt to add a colorful plant to begin with it. A lot of times, if they're not exactly happy, they'll still be growing. They just are going to turn more green and not as colorful as you saw when you originally purchased or what you have seen on pictures from people online.
So keeping their color is a really good indicator of if you're meeting their needs with light and light and nutrition would be the main ones on keeping color?
The light and nutrition and CO2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So judge it if you're losing color, something's off. If you're growing too much algae, something else is off.
Yeah. Algae, like you said, is the bane of all aquarists internationally.
Yeah. Freshwater, saltwater, doesn't matter. Algae, and no one likes it.
Yep.
So we're talking a lot about adding nutrients. What are some of the nutrients that would be added to help the plants grow and keep color?
So the three main nutrients plants need are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So you'll see those labeled as NPK on the bottles. And then they also need the micronutrients, and they're almost equally as important to get in there, especially when you're looking for your colors. So look for a fertilizer that not only has your NPK, but also has your micronutrients in there, and they'll be labeled on the bottle. They should be. So you're looking for that full, complete fertilizer to keep your plants in that optimal color range.
Because in a high tech, where plants are growing so fast, even if you're doing those regular water changes, it's probably not bringing enough of that in from your tap water to sustain what they're going to actually need. They're probably depleting through that really quickly. So the nutrients are really important, even if you're doing regular water changes.
Yes, even if you're doing regular water changes. Like you said, unfortunately, our tap water has a lot of things in it, but not necessarily the right things for growth on plants. So you want to add whatever nutrition you're happy with or to begin with, and start slow. It's going to give you rates on there to add. On every bottle will give you rates. You start very low, start at a quarter, and then work your way up to what rate they're telling you.
Imagine if you go full force on the full dose, you're probably going to run into some issues.
You'll find out if you have algae or not.
Real fast.
Yeah.
So some of these plants that we're talking about that are harder to keep and more colorful, what is their growth structure and propagation on those?
So when I think of the real colorful plants, they're going to be stem plants. You've got your different rotalas. You've got Nessia, the golden Nessia. You've got a range of different colors in those reds and oranges that you can bring into there. And they're going to be stem plants. So you're going to be harvesting them, pinching them back or cutting them back low to the base. Leave a little bit there so you get the branches up and you can replant. They are going to be wanting to go fast, and they are going to be wanting to be maintained.
Okay, so they're real easy. You trim, you can replant that, they just continue to grow. So propagation is actually very easy with those.
Propagation's a piece of cake on those.
How about for like your baby tiers that are going to be low and growing on the foreground?
So the foreground plants are spreading by rhizomes and they're creeping along. The harder part there is to maintain, if you want an edge, to maintain that edge, because those plants, when they're happy, are going to generally be looking to creep and looking to spread. So the maintaining the edge, maintaining your lines, but don't be afraid to grab some pieces and plant them around too. You can propagate, just by grabbing a cluster, because you're going to have rhizomes and growing tips in there, and plant them in new areas around the tank.
And for trimming those, is just kind of trim across at the height you want to keep it?
Yeah, most of them are going to be trimmed on their own, but as they're there for time, they'll mound up. And like your lawn at home, if you get thatch underneath it, it's going to keep mounding. It's not going to be as healthy. So if you can keep them trimmed back, you're going to have a healthier.
Does trimming those type of foreground plants, like trimming them a little bit shorter, put more energy into root growth? Like if it's a newer ones and you're trying to get them more established in the substrate, does that help?
It's going to help get lighting down to the base, which is going to give you a fuller look in that area. So if you're seeing them start to thin out and there's some tall, or think about what's shading them potentially.
Okay.
And when you're trimming and maintaining.
Good to know. Yeah, keep it short. Otherwise, you're going to get it more straggly. It's going to not give you that grass appearance that people are always looking for with that foreground.
Correct.
Mow the grass.
Mow the grass.
All right. So what's your favorite difficult plant to keep? And what do you find most rewarding about keeping them?
So my favorite difficult one to do is the Nessia pedicellata golden. And the reason it's my favorite is you don't see many bright yellow plants out there. And not only does it have a bright yellow leaves, but it's got a pink stem. And also a little partial to this, because we developed it here at the nursery.
Really?
We had the species is a solid green leaf, right? So I found a variegated sport that had green and yellow in it, kept working with it over time, and it sent off solid yellow. And not only did it send off solid yellow leaves, but it was stable. So at that point, we felt like we could release it, grow it and release it, and now you can find it around the world. But it was one we developed here at the nursery.
The concept of taking an augury plant and ending up one with yellow and pink, like that blows my mind, like how you can even get to that point. But I know that one because we used it in the clear build that we did recently, and absolutely my favorite, because it's a beautiful shade of pink with that yellow contrast. Was my favorite.
I was
one
just
that
going
we
to
used
ask if
in there.
that's the plant that was.
Yeah.
It sounded like the description.
Love that one.
Well, great. I'm glad you guys like it too.
Your favorite too. So between like easy to keep and harder to keep, what do you like compare as far as like overall feel about them and like comparison?
So I think they've all got their great uses, right? So easy to keep. If you're getting kids into the hobby, if you're new into the hobby, think for that easy to maintain, because you want to have a good positive experience.
Yeah.
You want to see plants that grow. You don't want to bring home plants that die, right? Nobody wants that. We all have house plants and we all know they're slowly dying. But our aquarium plants, at least we want to keep alive, all right? And it's possible with very low maintenance. My son dreamt about having his own fish tank, and finally we caved and gave him one. He doesn't do anything. He barely even adds water to it. I'll go in there and it sounds like a waterfall in his room. And it's only a small aquarium, like 8 or 9 gallon. Sounds like a waterfall in there. I'm like, hey, you need to add water to it. But the plants are flourishing because I helped them, obviously, but we picked some easy to grow varieties that he doesn't have to take care of. And he's had it for years. And It's been a huge success for him. It looks like a jungle in there. Hard to maintain ones. Are colorful, they're vibrant, they give you that extra challenge, right? So as you get in there, and it depends on your time concerns, if you want to start setting up with those bright colorful or those harder varieties that people tell you, like the Aponogetans, like Madagascar lace and stuff, mess with them, have fun, but do it in a way that you're not frustrated. Have something going first and then add some hard ones to it. See how you do there, or you can go with the ultra hard and try to be a contest aquascaper, when you get there, right? And maintain a tank for 3 months, take some beautiful pictures, and
those are,
and then start again.
So it really comes down to like how much maintenance you really want from the aquarium. If you want something that you don't really have to mess with, looks great all the time, go with the low, easy ones, low tech. But if you really want to be one of those people that like fiddle and like to be trimming and adding stuff, high tech is where you would want to take it.
Correct. And it doesn't hurt to have a couple different tanks in different rooms of your house or in different areas. You can have low tech tanks that you never have to think about. And then you can have one experimental tank that you're always playing with.
Yeah, that's great advice. What advice would you give to someone that's looking to transition from like an easier to care for plant tank to a harder?
So number one, check your lighting, right?
Yeah.
See what lighting you have. See if you need to upgrade your lighting. That would be my first check. Number two, seriously start looking into CO2 systems. They are hugely beneficial when you're growing those foreground mats, when you're growing those bright red colors. Adding a CO2 system to it is well worth your expense if you want to get there. And number three, start looking around to see what neat plants you want to put in there. There's so many colors, shapes, sizes, textures. Start looking around, playing with it. Put your hit list out of plants that you want to grow in there. And don't be afraid to mix some easy ones in there too.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for sharing all of that expertise with us. That's really amazing. A lot of really good information. But before we wrap up, is there any additional advice that you would give to the hobbyists?
Aquarium keeping is about having fun, right? This is something we can do indoors. So if we have an apartment, we've dreamed of gardening, well, you can. You get an aquarium for your house. The advances throughout even my short lifetime in the hobby have been amazing. Mm-hmm. The lights are great nowadays. If you heard that it was hard in the past, it's a piece of cake compared to what it used to be. Lighting's so easy. This is your outlet. This is your release, to do your gardening in your house. Think of it in that type of mentality, and you're going to have fun. You're going to be successful, and you're not going to be stressed out. Don't start with a super hard tank to begin with. Pick some easy stuff. Give yourself that success. Give yourself that push. And even if you need some greenery, some outdoors in the wintertime when you're stuck up north and it's snowing, I don't really know how that feels, but I've heard it's hard.
I can imagine.
As we're here sitting in 104 degree weather.
And they're laughing at me now. But, you need that greenery. You need that release of gardening and playing with plants and seeing that happen. Well, an aquarium's the perfect avenue into that. So go about it in those type of mentalities and have a blast doing it. And don't forget, we're here just talking about plants, but some people like to put fish in them too.
If you have to, I guess. I think that's really good advice of just have fun with it. Enjoy it, have fun. Don't push yourself to the highest limit right away, because I think that's a lot of times how people are going to be like, this is too much or fail. Like, start easy, work your way into how high tech you may want to get in the future.
Yep.
Yeah, and I can tell you that my background is in saltwater. I've been getting into more and more freshwater, and I'm hooked. It's actually, a lot of people wouldn't think it would be as exciting, but it's wonderful. And ever since we visited you here last year, I've gotten really into it. So,
well, that's great.
The inspiration is here.
Yeah, seriously.
And you realize the colors and everything, that you get in saltwater, you can also get in freshwater too, using the plants. And there's some beautiful fish too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always a pleasure visiting you out here. Thank you so much for having us again.
Thank you for inviting me. This is a fun experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a great interview with them. Learned a lot. Got to see so many just beautiful plants. And I know we show it, but the size of that place.
Yeah,
it's hard to imagine, even with the drone footage and everything, once you start walking through it and just see the sheer number of plants and different species and stuff that they're growing and just how beautiful and healthy everything is. It's really, really neat to see that kind of facility. And we actually did a full tour last year, so you can check out that video if you want to see really behind the scenes and all of what they're doing in all the different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Really like those guys. Really friendly team over at Florida Aquatic Nurseries.
Also where all of our plants come from here.
Yes.
So when you see all the beautiful plants that we're doing, all these builds, high tech, low tech, everything, that's all coming from Florida Aquatic Nurseries.
Yeah, so they are wholesale only. If you want to pick up their plants from somewhere, make sure to tell your local retailer or something like that you want to get whatever plants they offer.
Yeah, because if their selection's not that great, they're not ordering from the right people. They need
Yep.
to check out these guys because they have a little bit of everything for sure. So we have some winners.
Yes, we do.
All right. So also just to mention real quick, the giveaway, the entries to the grand prize is about to close soon, right before the 6 o'clock hour. So if you haven't gotten in there and you haven't gotten the bonus words in, get that done now. And then for that one, they will also be that first entry opening for the gift cards too, right? For the two $500 ones.
You lost me. Whatever you said.
We have the grand prize. We have the grand prize $1,000 one. Then we have two 500s.
Yes, correct.
Those two 500s will be the same setup as this, where it's the first 30 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So next stream is two $500 gift cards.
Plus the 1,000 grand prize. Okay. Sorry, my words did not make sense. All right, we are ready
Ready?
to do the first two winners.
Yes.
Matthew Arnold and Ryan Kelly. Congratulations, you guys.
Woo!
Giving
You
away
didn't
all
make
the
your
money.
sound.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man.
Didn't feel right. It's fine.
All right, we have two more winners for this, and to make $2,000 total. We are ready with the other two.
Yes.
Winners are.
Oh yeah, Lisa Switzer and Christopher Richardson.
There you go.
Congratulations.
Woo! Congratulations. Reach out to you via email, get that all taken care of for you guys. I would say I've seen a lot of the same names in all the streams so far today, which has been really cool to see.
Yeah.
We appreciate everyone that tunes in. So 6 o'clock hour is our finale, so we're gonna have some fun trivia. There's gonna be some weird drinks. See what our knowledges are on some random freshwater stuff.
No idea what it's going to be. but-
No, but you want to join in. It's a lot of fun, and then we will be announcing the 3 gift card winners. So definitely want to tune in about 23 minutes.
See you guys in a little bit.
See ya.
Fresh Friday is happening now. Save up to 20% site-wide now until July 26th.
Take advantage of our financing options with rates as low as 0% APR for 12 months.
To get all the details, visit waterboxaquariums.com.